Good morning. Who is that? We got a heckler already? Where'd you go? Yeah. As you all know, we traditionally hold this event in March, but due to COVID this year, we've moved St. Patrick's Day to today. Because as a Chamber of Commerce, we can move holidays whenever it suits our purposes. And having actually consulted with an Irish person earlier, I'm told that this is not what you can expect in Ireland for this time of year. So we've done pretty well for ourselves. Our annual St. Patrick's Day event is to recognize someone in our Central Vermont community who contributes to and adds to its success. Over the years, it has also morphed into a way to lightly roast the recipient. So in the spirit of a light roasting, I have my own quick anecdote about Gary. The Chamber and the world have a long working history. Gary served on our board at one point. His wife worked at the Chamber. This partnership goes back for years. Apparently, however, in the year and a half I've been here, I've developed a reputation of being a penny-pinching ogre to the point where if Gary has something to sell, he doesn't call me. He'll call Tanya and try to get her to convince me, but I'm not bitter, Gary. And here's why. For two reasons. Number one, you're right. And number two, I lost my place. Knowing that turnabout is fair play and that you might try to decline if we invited you, we got Carol involved early on in the process so she would convince you to be here today. So as I said before, our purpose with this event is to recognize a Central Vermonter who gives back, who makes the fact that they care about our area clear in many different ways. When we came together to decide for this year's recipient, the choice became obvious very early on. Gary has made countless contributions to improving Central Vermont and the standard of living here, and it's a privilege to honor him today. Since I realize I'm standing between a large crowd and breakfast, let me conclude by introducing Kim Balduck of Balduck Metal Recycling in Middlesex, who is the chair of the board of directors for the Central Vermont Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Kevin. And I want to take this opportunity to say welcome back, Central Vermont. We did it. Our first in-person event of 2021. Congratulations to you, our business community, on emerging on the other side of a world pandemic. Whether you're a business owner that navigated the COVID restrictions and kept your business open, one who had to make the difficult decision to close your doors temporarily and lay people off, or an employee who struggled to find balance between working from home and your family, one thing comes to my mind, and that's community support and involvement. Gary Haas has always been a huge supporter of everything Central Vermont, so we can all take a lesson from him and to continue to support each other. Things are stressful as we tackle the tough decisions, and networking and sharing information is critical to continuing our return to a vibrant and economically sound community. Being here today is a reflection of your support of not only Gary and the Central Vermont Chamber, but of your employees, your business, and your goals. Thank you for supporting the Chamber and taking the time to be involved in events. Few of us will ever be as involved in Gary. Little did I know when I took my first job delivering the world on Berlin Street in Montpelier, I would one day be standing here paying tribute to him. His willingness to take on yet another project or cause makes him a Central Vermont icon. His attitude and smile makes it impossible to refuse his request. But Gary takes involvement to the next level. He doesn't ask much of people. He just does it himself. Years ago, I worked out of town. I had a conversation with Gary how I got home late every Tuesday, and there were never any copies of The World left on the mailboxes, despite the extra nails we pounded in. The next week, Gary delivered extra copies and installed hooks under each mailbox. Gary was responsible for selling the tickets for the Montpelier Rotary raffle. He approached my husband with the ticket purchase request almost apologetically, understanding for some the cost was perhaps a bit much. Of course, after he found out I was a silent auction junkie who single-handedly ensured the success of the event, he would bypass my husband and come straight to me. Again, being involved in our community and sharing our resources is a model Gary has used, and it will serve us all well as we redefine Central Vermont post-COVID. Thank you and enjoy your morning. Before we begin introducing the speakers that are present today, I would like to take a moment to relay a comment. Bob Wexler was a lifelong friend of Gary's, one of the first people who welcomed Gary into our community. Bob is not able to be with us today, but he would have been honored to be a part of Gary's special day, and I did want to take a moment to recognize him. And I'd like to welcome to the stage Chris Barbieri, our first guest speaker.
No laughing yet. Push the button to make this work. Oh, now it's working. Okay, can everybody hear me? All righty. First of all, I want to compliment the Central Vermont Chamber of Commerce, first on this event today. But speaking of the event, many chambers of commerce honor their members. But this is the first time, I'm sure, in the history of all chambers of commerce, that they honored the individual that they were feasting and hosting this day under a tent at 8 a.m. in what used to be a cow pasture. Gary and I have been friends for a long time. We've traveled together. We've mowed lawns together. We've done a lot of things together. And I think the Chamber made a very good choice in honoring Gary today. Gary is the coolest guy I have ever known. He is truly a cool dude. He has done many things to support the community, but I have to say that no matter where he was or what he was doing, he always had that smile. That smile could melt glaciers. Unbelievable. He is one of the guys who never loses his cool. I don't think I've ever seen Gary really get mad or angry or upset about anything. He's always Mr. Cool. And there's a lot of things he's done over the years for the community, for Central Vermont. I'm going to focus in on only a couple of them. He is the most generous person I have ever known. Next to my wife, I have to say that. Gary, and we'll give you an example of just one of the many, many things he has done to show his generosity. We all know Senator Bill Doyle. Senator Doyle, 48 years in the Vermont Senate, and he's pretty much an icon in Central Vermont. And some folks have said that there were more than one Senator Bill Doyle, that there were 2 or 3 of them, because he could be at the same place at the same time in parts of Washington County. And people said, how does he do it? It can't be possible. Well, as Senator Doyle got older, his health diminished. And he got to the point where he had trouble walking. And he was in a wheelchair. And he still is in a wheelchair, actually. And Senator Doyle called Gary, knowing that Gary is the kind of guy who would help anybody anytime they needed help. Called Gary and asked if he would pick up the senator at his home and take him to Moutois. Now, there are some of us in this room who are members of Moutois and Barrie. Moutois is a club for men only. It's hard to believe there's any of those left, but Moutois is one of them. And Moutoir is mostly a social club. There are dinners every couple of 3 weeks, and there's 100, 150, 200 guys get together and enjoy a meal. Bill Doyle is a member of Moutoir. So Bill called Gary and said, Gary, could you pick me up at my house and bring me down to Moutoir? Because I can't drive anymore, and my wheelchair doesn't go fast enough to get there on time. So Gary, throughout a number of years, summer, winter, would pick up Senator Doyle with the van, get his wheelchair into the van, get the senator into the van in the front seat, drive down to Moutoir. When you get to Moutoir, you have to go upstairs or downstairs. You can't get in flat when you walk in the door. So that meant Gary had to get the wheelchair down and up again and so on. This went on for years, winter, summer, and I give Gary an enormous amount of credit for doing this year after year for Senator Doyle. And now, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, Gary says, hey Chris, you want to go down and see Senator Doyle? He's at Mayo down in Northfield. So I said, yeah. So Laurel and I went down with Gary, and we would not have done that if Gary hadn't have called. So this is Gary, this is Gary, this is Gary. The other thing I want to mention is that as a businessman, we talk about commitment to the community, and there are a lot of things you'll hear about after I finish about the things Gary has done. I think the most important thing and the most important contribution that he has made to Central Vermont is this: the world. Think about this publication. Think about what it would be like without this publication. There is everything in here you want to know about going on in Central Vermont. You want to sell something, you want to buy something, you got it. You want commentaries, you got it. You want news about what's going on, you got it. Personally, hocus pocus is what I like in here. 2 panels, try to find 6 differences. Not easy to do. So with that, I'll close and just simply say that, once again, this is only a few of the things that make Gary the coolest guy in the world. Gary, you deserve this more than anybody sitting in this room and anybody sitting in Washington County. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. And next, I would like to welcome Tim Hayward to the stage, please.
Good morning. Going second, and I don't know if this is a roasting or not, but am I coming through loudly enough? Good. Being second, half your material is already gone. So when we get to Burr Morse, Burr, just give us the syrup. You know? But anyway, when Chris was up here talking about mowing the grass with Gary, I thought he was going to say smoking the grass. But no? Oh, okay. Anyway, when Jeanette called a 3 weeks ago and said that the Central Vermont Chamber was going to honor Gary, and would I make a few remarks, I of course agreed immediately. I can think of no one who is more worthy than Gary. Then she elaborated with some instructions. The words were to be kind, and only a slight roasting. Be gentle to good old Gary. Kind words, no problem, but only a slight roasting, that's like drinking a rum and coke and holding the rum. I've never done that. And gentle, and I've made a little list here, but Chris and I played racquetball for many years with Gary, And then I look at the crowd here and I see several others, John Malter, Joe Choquette, Bob Rosenfeld, and I'm sure I missed some other racquetball players here. But Gary does not know gentle. No prisoners he. Now, he did have a soft underbelly on the court. It was called getting there. There were always good excuses. I was dropping bundles of the world in Northfield or Worcester or Waterbury or somewhere. We could and did set our watches. A 4 o'clock game actually started at 4:30, and we granted Gary a default. He was duly consistent, 30 minutes late, no matter the start time, we could count on it. But that's it. I searched my memory bank for any Gary material for roasting, and there was none. So, Jeanette, not to worry. Yes. I did come up, though, with a few descriptive words, and Chris really filled in the blanks already, but Gary is one of the most sensitive people I know, and it's being a friend of Gary's is such a treat. He's caring. It's just wonderful about, I don't know how often, but in the evening, phone rings. Hi, Tim, it's Gary from the world. You know, and he's just calling up to say hi, how you doing, staying in touch, being neighborly, considerate. He's last of the good guys. And Chris talked about Gary being a chauffeur for Senator Doyle, but that was done with passion. And just as he is one of the last of the good guys. Competitive, I've mentioned that already, and community. And the community is best expressed by the Washington World, which, as Chris said, has really, for decades, tied our community together. And finally, car cloning. I mentioned Gary delivering the bundles of the world. I swear there must be a dozen cars in central Vermont with a license plate, the world. And there are drivers who look just like Gary. He is more connected to the everyday Central Vermonter than any politician I know, with a possible exception of Bill Doyle. And that, I admit, is where I failed. Gary is all the things I mentioned and more. What better person to represent us in Montpelier? I don't know. I pushed and I cajoled, but so far, Gary, the future's ahead of us. Let me conclude with this. 69 or 10 years ago, Gary Haas was brought forth in this continent, a new baby who would shape the world in his vision. We're here today to honor him for his vision and his vitality in making our small corner of this world, Central Vermont, a better place to live and to work. Thank you, Gary. You certainly deserve this fine honor.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to invite Jay Hooper to the stage, please. I was thinking the same thing. If I make it through this without tripping up the stage, we'll all be good.
Thank you. Can you all hear me in the back? It's very important that you hear me. I got about 14 pages of notes. This isn't a joke. I've known Gary for about 30, maybe 35 years. We have become friends, and I applaud myself for being one of his friends, or he being one of mine. First words out of his mouth usually, as Chris and Tim both alluded to, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. Can I get that for you? We invited Carol and Gary out to our island camp in Woodbury a couple of years ago. And in the conversation while we're having corn on the cob and hamburgers or something, Gary said, "What are you going to do tomorrow?" I said, "Well, tomorrow I think I'll paint the trim on the house." He said, "We could do that now." I said, "You know, we didn't invite you over here to paint the house. We invited you over here to do a little socializing. He's always working. He never has any free time. And here he wants to paint my house." Another time, he volunteered to help me. We were moving, I don't know, a lot of people know that we lived on the Barry Montpelier Road, about 5 houses up the east side toward Barry, 5 houses from the world. Prior to the house that we just sold or talked about, we lived 2 houses away. And as part of a part-time business I thought I was in, I had a limousine. And the limousine was parked at the house under a 30-foot canopy with the arches, you know, a vinyl type material made into a garage. I've got to move this 30-foot by 12-foot garage 200 yards to the new house. Gary said, "I can help you with that." He rounded up 4 other people to help. So now there's 8 of us, Gary and Jay and 4 others. Is that 8? That's 6. Anyway, we ended up with 8 people on a Saturday morning on the Barry Montpelier Road. My little wife, Pat, walked along in front of us while we lifted up this 30-foot long house or garage and carried it. It looked like we lifted it up so it was about as high as our knee. And so anybody coming by could see this thing, and it looked like a caterpillar going down the Barry Montpelier Road carrying this thing. You couldn't see any of the people. All you could see were the legs sticking out below. Anyway, we got it done. Then, after we got that moved, then Gary says, "Well, what are you going to do with everything in the house?" "Well, we're going to move it." "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, we're only going 2 houses down the street." He said, "I can help you with that. We've got a van. That says World Number 1 or something. And we got the house moved." Incredibly helpful and very volunteering. Impulsive. I think Gary's, I would classify as an impulse worker or involves himself. We had a birthday party for Gary one night. We were down at a restaurant, I can't remember the name, it used to be right by the diner in Barry, right on the main street. Anyway, we're having a birthday party, 5 of us. Gary and Carol, Pat and Jay, and Pat had just sold a house to somebody, and she invited him to come live with us till his house was ready. So we better take him to the party. So we're at the party, and somebody mentioned there was an article or an ad in the World. An ad for what? Everything is in the World is advertising. Well, this is an advertisement for air travel to London, England. $199 round trip. Within 15 minutes, 4 of us had decided we're going to go to London. The next day, 4 of us got tickets to go to London. And without any preparation or planning or anything, we're just going to do it. And we did. I had a fantastic time. Thank you. Another time, at Gary's suggestion, I remember getting a phone call. "Hoop, let's go to Atlantic City. We're going to Atlantic City, do a little gambling." Whoa. I don't know if I can go to that. That didn't work out so well. So anyway, we went to Atlantic City. No preparation, no planning, we just go. And this is a guy that you never see away from town. Everywhere you look, he's there delivering more papers and doing. Unbelievable. Tireless, as everybody has mentioned. He never stops. But we convinced him one time, a couple of years ago, come on down to Florida for at least a long weekend or something. And they came, Carol and Gary. Now, this guy is the one that runs 7 days a week, except when he's playing racquetball with the boys. And so we decided we'll do quiet things and just rest. We went out on a 40-foot catamaran with a bunch of people, a sailing catamaran that tours around the bay, around Naples. Going around all these gorgeous big homes all over the place, you know, these $15, $20 million houses. And we look over and Gary is sound asleep. It finally caught up with him. Sound asleep. But he spends more time caring for other people. And I hate to talk about personal things. One other thing I wanted to mention about the delivery of the world. There was a point at someplace back in my career, as we would call it, about I got a little frustrated. I spent too much money, and all of a sudden I needed some. And I mentioned it to Gary. He said, "Well, come on, work for the world. You know, work at the world. Deliver some newspapers." Well, I don't know. I have to do this where not everybody sees me. I'm supposed to be Mr. Hotshot Real Estate Broker. So I said, well, we could probably do this, and Pat would help me. So he said, okay, I got a fellow that's sick. One of our carriers is not well, and he needs some time off. So I said, yes, no problem. So I said, I'll take over that route. So he didn't tell me until I got to Tuesday night to pick up my papers. Well, here's the route. There's 1,100 papers. I still have a full-time job, Gary. I don't know if I can do this. So anyway, we loaded up the papers. This is funny. And I got the papers on Tuesday night and took them home. We bagged them all up, put them in boxes, and then put them in the car. And at that time, I had a little Honda car coupe. No room in the car, but we got 1,100 papers in there in boxes. And then I put poor little Pat in the back with the papers. So here we are, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, delivering papers in the bitter cold of February. And Pat she was wearing these kitchen gloves, what do they call it, rubber, yellow. Everybody knows those yellow kitchen gloves. She's got those on. She's reaching out at each mailbox where they have the hook on the bottom. You know, everybody has one of those mailboxes. And we delivered. Then all of a sudden, I'm getting a call. Stop! I usually drive by, and she hangs the paper, and I don't really stop. I just kind of slow down. Well, this time, she's got the glove his hooked. And I'm driving, and the glove is getting longer, and you don't know what happens after that. Well, anyway, she looked down, her finger was still there. I said, so be quiet, let's get them done. Gotta get this job done. But most importantly, let me thank Gary and Carol for an incredible, the biggest thing they've done in my life is introducing me to the most wonderful person I could marry. My wife was Pat, and back in 30 years ago? Oh my God. It's not, it's 31. Anyway, she has been a gift from Carol and Gary. They brought me over to their house for a supposed cookout, and we're the only two people there that and the rest, as they say, is history. Gary, congratulations to a well-deserved award. You're a fantastic friend, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for letting the secret out. Gary and Carol, I love to travel, so if you ever get one of those impulses, just give me a call. George Schumann, if you could come up and speak a few words.
Good morning. How are you? I'm George, as you were just told. It was really an honor for me to be asked to say a few good words about my friend Gary here. I couldn't think of any, but we'll probably come up with something. You know, you put something on a computer and it never ever works. That's the way it is with me on my phone. Anyway, it really is an honor to be here. I've known Gary. We've been friends for ever since he used to look like that picture right there. That really is him right there. Anyway, probably the early 1980s. If any of you remember in Barry, the old J.J. Newberry store, remember that? Well, I ran that thing for about 100 years back in the 80s and 90s. I said 100 years. And Gary would come in and sell me advertising. That's what Gary did. He sold advertising and for the paper. Well, at first it seemed a little strange. I had a very conservative Christian family upbringing when I was a kid, and I always sort of assumed that God made the world, that God owns the world, and there's this young, tall, lanky kid coming in my store telling me that he owned the world. Eventually I did figure out it was the paper, but that's sort of how it all started. And we've been friends ever since, and I hope we still are after this, Gary. And then there was the pizza. He'd bring pizza. He'd come in to take an ad and bring pizza. Bob, yeah, bring pizza for the staff. And I don't understand that. Well, I asked him one day, I said, Gary, what is it about the pizza? What is pizza when you're selling advertising? He said, hey, George. You know, he always says, hey, George. I love that big smile. I said, hey, George, well, did you know that pizza, I hope I can say this. Did you know that pizza is like sex? I said, what do you mean pizza is like sex? Gary says, yeah. I said, when it's good, it's real good. And when it's bad, still pretty good. Did you say that? I think he's the one that said that to me. Anyway, one day, and I know this was in 1994, one spring day, I kind of got up the nerve to ask Gary if I could try writing a column for the paper. And he immediately just said, yeah, go ahead and do it, because Gary always says, yeah, he's just that guy. And so I did, and he published it, and he still is publishing it. 27 years later, he still lets me do that. And it's been my therapy all these years, you know. But it's just amazing. It really is. All of these good things that have been said about Gary Haas, all true. And many, many more. You know, I wrote a few notes here about his involvement in the community, the chamber, the Mutwa, you know, the Rotary, all of those things. They're all true and more, as I said. His involvement in the lives of people in the community, his caring for people in the community it's just amazing. I've never met anybody like him, and I truly cherish his friendship. Last thing, do you folks remember Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, neighborhood on TV? Well, shortly before he died, he was asked to give the world. He was asked to give maybe 3 pieces of advice, of life advice, that people should follow to have a good life. His reply was these 3 pieces of advice: be kind, be kind, be kind. Could not epitomize my friend Gary any better than that. I just thank you, Gary.
Thank you, George. And our last speaker, Burr Morse.
Good morning, folks. Thank you for everyone for supporting this wonderful event, and in honor of this wonderful person. George, the last speaker, kind of disappointed me a little bit because I thought Moore's Farm was the only place Gary was bringing those pizzas to. And speaking of pizzas, oh, the times Gary would show up carrying so many boxes of pizzas that he could hardly walk. And he always seemed to hit the days when our staff was the most hungry. I don't know how you do it, Gary, but you did it. And he did the same thing with Dunkin' Donuts and other things. And there were times we held an event at Moore's Farm, and Gary would go down the road and he put a sandwich board up at every intersection with balloons on it. And I so appreciate all of the wonderful things he did for us, and he's done for each and every one I see in the audience. And Gary's actions are those of a true Vermonter. And believe me, I know true Vermonters. And so I have prepared a resolution. This is a formal, sacred thing. Be it resolved on this day of June 17th, 2021, by Burr Morse, 7th generation Vermonter, that Gary Haas has hereby overcome certain nearly impossible obstacles. Gary Haas, Flatlander, born and bred, is hereby granted status as real Vermonter. Real Vermonter for life, otherwise known as Woodchuck. This honor carries all rights and privileges enjoyed by all woodchucks, including the following hallowed qualities: DNA with an extra chromosome for maple syrup, the express right to collect as many old cook stoves and refrigerators on his lawn as he damn well pleases, a propensity toward using minor cuss words, and the right to savor his lifetime collection of expired light bulbs just because, damn, they was good old bulbs. Furthermore, be it resolved that Gary Hass's World newspaper will go down in the Vermont archives with other top Vermont highlights like Tunbridge Fair, music to go to the dump by, and that time Governor Shumlin got caught with his pants down by a hungry bear. And so I was going to have a plaque, a bronze plaque, made in Gary's honor today, but that's not a real Vermont thing to do. A little too fancy for Gary. So instead I had a sap bucket inscribed Vermont Woodchuck for Life, Gary Hass, 17 June 2021. Come on up, you Gary.
Wow.
And Lee Robinson used to work at Morse Farm. I had her do the bucket, and I said, I want to hire you to do a bucket. And she said, if it's for Gary Hass, I ain't going to charge anything. She loves you, Gary.
Wow.
Thank you, Burr, and thank you to all of the speakers for being kind, gentle, and sensitive. And before I do invite Gary up to the stage, I do just want to remind him that the Chamber Board still meets on the third Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. And we do accept pastries, donuts, bagels, since we are now in person. Gary?
Wow. What we say after something like that? All those kind words that were said, and they were kind, and there's a lot of other things they probably could have said, but I appreciate that they were good. I want to thank the Chamber first off, Jeanette and Tanya and Kelly, and of course Kevin, who pulled this off. I mean, what a wonderful day, and there's so much positive spirit going on in this thing that and then to John Farr for letting us have this wonderful outdoor facility. This place is really taking off here. Nice job, John. Thank you. And to the great food that we had, Norm. Le Pete Gourmet, I think I've got that right. Yeah. Once again, a fabulous job. Thank you. Well, first I got to say, here's what I'm doing, because I'm probably going to get emotional about this, is my son Tyler's probably saying, oh no, Dad's going to turn into a bumbling, blubbering, sobbing speech here. But so I got a little fork here that this is my secret. When I at an event that evokes some emotion or whatever, I keep it in my pocket. I keep poking myself, and that kind of brings me back to a little bit of a more sane reality. The sponsors of this event, thank you. My gosh, just unbelievable that you would sponsor something like this for me. I really, really appreciate that. I mean, I remember when this was first mentioned, I said, no. I can think of 100 people, and I'll write their names down right now. Ask them to be the recipient of this of this award and recognition. But I don't know if it was because they had an inside with me because my wife had worked at the chamber. But anyway, so I was destined to get this, I guess. And I've been telling everybody this morning, you just have to live long enough. And eventually your name is, oh, we haven't done anything for Gary yet or something. So, and of course, serving on the chamber, I really, I'm saying this with all sincerity, that when I belonged to the, I still belong to the Central Vermont Chamber, obviously. In fact, the world, I think, is one of the longest members of the chamber. But that the committees that I was able to serve on, I was probably the weakest link on, but I really enjoyed and learned an awful lot from the chamber. And I'm so proud of the Central Vermont Chamber for all that they do. They're amazing. And came through COVID, they're able to, they continually kept us updated on important issues to the business community with legislature and the other things. And then we now hold a good event like this. And we have a beautiful day, and we, just so many great things that occurred to this. Now, for the guest speakers, who were very kind, very, very kind, I really appreciate it. I was first I had mentioned like Tim, because Tim is a Marine, and what I've learned is once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine, and if you play him like in racquetball, like Joe and Bob and Chris and myself, you learn that even when you make a good shot, it may not be good enough to get by Tim Hayward, because Tim, just when you thought you had a killer shot, you'd see an arm stretched out across the floor to catch that ball. And I said, Tim, cut us some slack sometime, but he never does. He never did. He was always a really good competitor, and we had so much fun. And then I also appreciate that he didn't mention I do have a little bit of it's not really a temper, but when I make a good shot, I get that primal yell, and I was glad that nobody said, probably because we didn't have Joe up here, but that primal scream of ecstasy and they know what I'm talking about. And of course, Chris, geez, world traveler friend, and always there to help out right back. Probably much more deserving of any recognition than I am. But we have so much fun with Chris and Laurel. And George Schumann. Now, George is, I've often said, I said, George, if I could have picked a brother, because I didn't have a brother, but I would pick George Schumann, because he's just, we've had great talks. He's done so many wonderful things in his life, with his family. And just sometimes you say, I wish that was my brother or something. So anyway, thank you, George, and that. And Jay, oh my God, Jay is the person everybody wants as a friend. Him and Pat give so much more back. And have you ever seen more energy in a guy? He's still rollerblading, I think, and just a year or so ago, motorcycling, and he puts most of us to shame. And but be more careful when you're rollerblading on a gravelly road or whatever it was that tripped you up the last time there. He just enriches all of us. So everybody wants to be his friend. And Bird, Carol and I 38 years ago bought a house on which was parceled off of the Morse farm, and the Morse family always adopted us as one of the Morse farm family people, and that's been such a long and great event. We're out in the country, but we had like a country store right there, and actually two of Burr's siblings live right by. It was a warm feeling. If you needed anything, those people are there for you. And so we had some good times during the busy bus season, of getting some pizza out to the people. I mean, we can't imagine
during the foliage, how many buses go through that place in a year. Now, I asked Bird just to confirm this. I think this fall, this is after no buses last year were allowed to come. This year, 350 buses so far signed up. And that's huge for a business that, really relies on that kind of traffic. So anyway, congratulations on that.
Gary, she just said that's a lot of pizza.
I know, I'm saving up. I'll start saving up, but thank you for those kind words. Well, there's an old saying, behind every successful man, there's a more successful or more energetic woman that makes sure he gets the job done. And it's so true at the World. It's my partner, 48 years, Deborah Phillips. We argue in different ways. She has the tougher part of the business. The financial part of it. She worries about payroll and things like that. I can see Linda knows what I'm talking about. But I get the fun part of being out and meeting people and working on things like that. But Deborah, for 48 years, I mean, we argue like crazy, but at 5 o'clock she goes one way and I go the next way. And somehow we pull it together to come in the next day. So anyway, and then my good friend Kate Santamore over here, our advertising guru, the person that, she goes by the lead, follow, or get the hell out of my way. And she will, every week, she's there, organizes us, and gets us charged up to go out and sell our paper for that edition. I know I have to learn to sell things a little further ahead. I'm like, whenever the deadline is my busiest day. So, and then Chris Richardson, our composition supervisor, is a one-woman army, and organizes all the pieces of material that come in each week into the beautiful award-winning publication. And it's a tough job, and she really pretty much gets us all out each week. And then I have a really good comptroller, Lisa Whittemore, been with us for, I don't know, I almost think like 35 years, and Kate probably was 35 years, and Chris maybe 25 years. I was going to ask before I said that. Boy, where did the years go, huh? But that's the kind of dedication that I've got. And Darlene Callahan, our front desk person, she's the front line, and many of you probably know her from calling in there, just a charged up personality all the time. And then Aletha Kelly, who is our data entry, the main person that puts things coming into the office and makes the deposits and all those things, is wonderful. So that's the women's side of it, and of the World. And then I am so lucky to have some really truly outstanding guys, that are part of our staff. And Jim Elliott always first comes to mind, because this man, he would stand out in traffic for you. Now, he's what I call the main muscle of our operation, and he's got more strength and energy than anybody. And he's probably the reason why some of you may have not got your paper if you're in the Montpelier, Waterbury, Waitsfield, Northfield area. That's his little domain of getting the papers out each week. And just a most amazing person. And Jim, I so appreciate you. And he's on vacation this week. Now, he asked me 2 years ago if he could have a week off, and I kind of, that's fine. And I kind of forgot about it. Well, this week, because he took a vacation, and I'm his backup. So That's why the papers are a little late this week in some areas. Yeah, I guess he had a wedding anniversary, 35th wedding anniversary. Anyway, he deserved it after all these years. And then we've got the legendary Mike Jakes, legendary super salesperson. Mike Jakes has been with us for many, many years, and he does just a fabulous job. Back on the circulation side, Paul Chicario, he kind of has the other half of the Central Vermont, the Barry, Randolph, Danville, Morrisville, that area that he does such a good job for us. And then I finish up with somebody that you probably will never see or know. His name is Chris Myers, and he's our copy editor. And he, well, since COVID, we haven't seen him since COVID. And he's kind of learned that he likes working out of his house better than coming into our office. So we cut him some slack on that. And he's a great guy. Like everybody has like, you know, hobbies, or they have other passions in life, which is good, because we do believe one of the most important things in the world is your family. Your family really is first, and you can't ever argue that. But Chris he plays in one of these. How do you describe it? Okay, help me on this. It's a band, but it's like a futuristic band type one, and you know, an exceptional person, as all of the staff are. Now that if I forgot somebody, I forgot. And then over the years, we've just had some amazingly devoted, long-lasting employees. And I really appreciate that they spent their lives with the world, which, when you think about it, is quite a bit. They could be anywhere, but they've spent many years working on keeping the newspaper going. So anyway, I always will appreciate that the most, I think. So anyway, I'll wrap this up because I'm sure I'm going on too long. I think the success in business is, well, two things. Just keep doing what you're doing and not giving up along the way. And then you gotta, to do that though, I think you gotta love what you do. And, you know, I mean, you have the tough times, sure. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But I love what I do. Every day I get up and I think there's not enough time to get it done, all that needs to get done. And you always got to be careful about not letting stress get you down, because that will drain you the most, which is easy to say and not easy to do. Never stop trying, and always be open to changes. That's kind of, you know, for some of us that have been doing it for a long time, you go, yeah, you know, you're reluctant to change a little bit, but you got to realize that's the secret to longevity, to keep going. You know, but I mean, who could have a better job than we do at the World, where we love bringing good news to people, and we love getting advertising results for our advertisers. And by the way, I hope I thanked the people who sponsored this event in the beginning, but thank you, because I know how important it is. So when you add up all of this, and Beth Wexler, I wanted to say thank you, because I know Bob would have been up here saying stuff. He was really a gem in Central Vermont. He taught me so many things, over the years, and especially how to deal with people. So anyway, you've been very kind audience to have listened to me get through this, and I really thank you. There was some, I think this is a once in a lifetime event for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for accepting our thanks. we'd like to now take a moment and present you
We didn't bring honorary Vermonter status. We brought a rock and some bacon.
Central Vermont Chamber of Commerce recognizes Gary Huff for his ongoing contributions to the communities of Central Vermont 2021. And before we adjourn, we have one more surprise item on the agenda.
Didn't include it on the agenda, it's a surprise.
So from all of us at the Chamber, we thank you for being here. Gary, we absolutely love you, of course. I just have one small little ditty roast to say about Gary. So years ago, first meeting Gary, I thought, what a lovely man. And then I encountered him a few more times. Why the heck does he smile so much? I mean, I like to smile, but, you know, it's not a constant. With Gary, it is. So, tried to figure him out. And I have a young son, and he met Gary through baseball and took quite a liking to him. Gosh, Mom, he's like the nicest guy I've ever met. I said, I think so. He goes, but is he? He smiles a lot. So Caleb and I tried to figure out for about the first 6 months we knew Gary, if he was the nicest human we've ever met, or if he had 30 dead bodies in the basement. Thank God when we were invited to his house for dinner, they don't have a basement. That's that. And now we're going to move on. We're going to take a little side road here. So, as Gary said, I'm going to change it a little. Behind every good man is a great woman. Well, by the looks of it here, we all think you're a great man. So what does that leave? Carol! Yes, and Gary, this is your day, Gary. We don't want to take the spotlight away from you at all. This is your limelight, but we figured you'd be okay sharing it a little bit with a woman that you've been sharing it with for longer than I've been alive. She's gonna kill me. I've had the pleasure of working with Carol. She worked at the Central Vermont Chamber for 10 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with her for the last 8. And it was great. She retired just before COVID last year. She asked us not to throw her retirement party. We were going to anyway, but then COVID happened and we weren't able to. So in lieu of that, we got you a special gift to honor your time and effort at the Central Vermont Chamber of Commerce and your new house to be.